Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords, and as you might notice, I've gotten a new camera. Yeah, well, I figured that since the World of the Last Sun sales were going well, it was about time to get a new phone, and so I picked one up, and this camera is, I think, something like supposed to be 4 times better than the previous one. So, you know, with all the action shots that my videos usually have, right, all the high intensity movement and things like that, that certainly, you know, now you'll be able to watch a static image of some of my books on, you know, propped up against my microwave with far better definition than you used to be able to look at those books stacked up against my microwave. But there we go. Some people complained about the video, and now there's better video quality. The only thing is, I really hope that this video doesn't end up being like totally wrong, like it's all sideways or something, because I haven't figured out. I'm not good with technology. I have a lot of trouble learning new technology. And so you change some slight details about how to use a new camera app versus the old one, and I could be doing 50 mistakes. Anyways, this video, I'm mostly doing a little video to let you know some news and important things, but it's been really quiet the first half of January, probably because the political situation is so insane. There's been very little about RPGs going on, right? Little news and events. You know, if you think there's something I should report on in this channel in the RPG world, you know, stuff that's going on, controversy, news, etc., by all means, please let me know. But for the moment, it's been very slow. Like, this is a story I'm going to tell you. It's probably going to be a shorter video. I'm going to tell you about something that has happened, and that, you know, under normal circumstances, I probably would not have picked this video, this subject, right? It's a good subject. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's not, you know, it's a slow news day by comparison to what you get, you know, typically in a week of gaming. It probably wouldn't have made my pick for video in a week that had a normal level of insanity going on in the RPG hobby. But it's just all the insanity has transferred over to the subject of American politics. And there you are. Anyway, first off, I want to make a little programming note before I forget. This Sunday should be the new issue or the episode of Inappropriate Characters with me, Joby Bittman, and Venger Satanis. And we should be talking about some interesting stuff, I'm sure. If you want to hear talking about politics, that's probably where it's going to happen. As well as some important news about things that are going to be changing on Inappropriate Characters. Nothing to worry about, right? But there's going to be some important changes that we've decided to undertake. Anyway, so check it out. Be sure to check it out. It'll probably be Sunday, 7:30 Central. That's the usual time, unless something weird happens. That's when we're going to be doing it. Second, I'm very happy to say that we've actually got some very good results from some of the sales of my books, and I really appreciate that for all of you who have been purchasing the books, all of you who have supported me. But in like this week, Star Adventurer has just become an Electrum bestseller. The Old School Companion is already an Electrum bestseller, right? And Lion and Dragon, if you're wondering, is a gold bestseller. I think it's still a gold bestseller. I'm not sure if it's... No, I don't think it's gotten to the next tier. I don't know, remember. I think the next tier is Platinum, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't think it's there yet. And The World of the Last Sun is a copper bestseller, undoubtedly about to hit silver almost any moment. So, like I said, I've been able to buy some new stuff thanks to that. You know, I think it'll fix some of the technical problems. But I really wanted to thank everybody who's picked them up, and I really, really appreciate it. And I love getting pictures. You know, I've been getting, just like when Star Adventure came out, people were sharing those pictures or posts on Twitter or Mewe or wherever of people sharing when they get their book, which is really nice. It's also kind of torture for me. It's like, if you really want to, it's a combination of, if you want to like make me feel really great inside and annoy me at the same time, because like for 6 straight months I had to watch people opening, you know, their Star Adventure book and I couldn't because it hadn't arrived yet, because the mail here is so slow and so utterly atrocious. But yeah, that's it's still worth the price, right? So feel free to share, photos of you guys opening your books. I'll probably retweet them or reshare them or whatever. But yeah, really, thank you so much for that. I'm really glad at how well these books are always doing, and all of your support. And if you haven't picked it up yet, be sure to check these games out. It's a great way to support me, but you're also getting some really useful product present. If you the one I'm not showing you right now because I don't have it yet is The World of the Last Sun, which is my newest book. Be sure to check that out. It's in the description below. So the subject that I was going to bring up today is from Twitter. That's like literally the only controversial thing I could find, which is that there seems to be an argument going on amid some people about the question of should one player get to disrupt the group by saying that what they're doing is what their character would do. Okay? And I've seen some people in these posts try to make it about a sort of old school, new school thing. Like I've seen some old OSR type people posting and saying, oh, well, in our campaign, we wouldn't care what your character would do or not. Something like that. So, I don't know if that's the answer. I think the answer would be like, well, not to endorse violence in D&D, but, if you're in a real OSR game, if someone's character acts like a dick and says, well, this is just what my character would do, the other characters would probably just kill him, right? But it's not, that isn't what, I don't think that this is really an old school, new school argument. And I'll tell you why. Because I have heard that story, this whole thing of, it's just what my character would do. It's something that has happened since at least as long as I've been gaming. And I've been gaming since basically the mid, let's call it the mid 80s, right? It's just a reality of it, right? This is a part of what happens when you're doing a game, you're playing a character. And even in the earliest periods, people were thinking in terms of what their characters did. But also, from the earliest periods, there were also assholes who just wanted to act like dicks. And they either made their character a dick to begin with, or if for some reason they couldn't, they would just, try to find some roundabout way to pretend that this is something that their character do, when they're really just metagaming, or they're really just trolling the other people, stuff like that. And so I think my first point on all this is, this is not an old school, new school debate. It's something that's happening in both contexts. I think maybe what you might see is that new school people are having more trouble processing, because how do you tell someone that they shouldn't be allowed to express their character? Because the new school has this, the 5th edition crowd has this perspective that it's the D&D, as I pointed out in my earlier videos, is their opportunity to show their special, unique snowflakeness, and that's what the whole game is about. So if it turns out that their special, unique snowflakeness is actually something that is, socially toxic and unviable for anyone else to handle, something that nobody else wants them around, what do you do? Because the problem is we live in the culture of everybody gets a participation trophy, right? And you're not allowed to get the first place trophy. That doesn't exist anymore. So how do you deal with people? How can you, if all that matters is that you express yourself, how can you deal with people who are claiming that they're just expressing themselves by being psychopaths or being assholes? And guess what? This isn't something that's just happening in the game. It's something that's happening everywhere in real life right now, where people are making these unreasonable demands on others that you have to accept their behavior. I'm not talking about identity, right? Like it's one thing if you say, well, I identify as a different gender than what you thought I identified as, and I would like you to respect that, right? You could say that, and I think that on the whole, if the other person isn't an asshole, they'll probably say, yeah, fine, right? Like, I mean, if someone says, I don't want to be called, let's put it this way. Even if someone just says, I don't want to be called James anymore, I want to be called Brother Shabazz, right? Well, you might think it's dumb, but that person has a fundamental right to their own bodily autonomy. Now, they don't have a fundamental right to force you to call them something you don't want to call them. But it is, generally speaking, all things being equal, good manners that you respect the autonomy of the other individual, because you expect that in turn they will respect yours. And so if it is no skin off your back to address someone in a different way, then that's fine. But the problem is when you get to grotesque behavior and actions where the other person will try to claim that what they are doing is actually completely justified because it's just an expression of their identity, right? So if like part of you, if what you feel is your fundamental identity, let's say you identify not as a person but as a puppy, okay, and this is really getting to stupid levels of identity, but let's say you do, all right, there you could say to the other person, yeah, okay, fine, you're a puppy, whatever, right? But then if the person insists that they get to shit on the floor, right, that they get to defecate wherever they want because they're a puppy, right, and that you have to respect that, if that you don't respect that, you're like a hate criminal or something, this is where we run into the fundamental problems, right? It's a problem not about identity, but about actions. So in the D&D world, in the game that you're playing, it's the same thing, right? It's in the new school game, people are told that they have to respect the other player's backstory. They have to respect the other player's idea or expression of what their character is, because like for them, that's all that it's about, right? Like 5th edition is turning into increasingly a kind of what do you call it? A fashion show of people modeling characters, how they look, how they dress, what their backstory is, what kind of brave thing they are expressing about themselves through the character, and then that's it. That's basically the game for these people, right? And if you deny that because someone is, even if someone is being is doing it in a way that's really harmful, that's really grotesque, or that's really offensive, then suddenly you're the bad guy, right? And so again, that is the new school problem. The answer to that is don't play with these people, right? That's often the answer to almost everything, right? The old school problem is different. And I think that is, first of all, there is certain people in certain types of old school games who just want to do what amounts to a dungeon crawl, right? And so there's a case where you can have a misfit situation where you've got 5 players, 4 of whom are like the dwarf, the warrior, the thief, the mage, and they might have given them a little bit of background, but that's not the point of the game that they're playing there. They're playing a game of going through the dungeon. And then the 5th one is like Talazar Aloyson, the bard, who is always happy-go-lucky but has a dark history and past and wants that to be part of the story for some reason that nobody else wants, right? And that's where you get into the problem. It's a clash of agenda. So I think the important thing there is to make it clear from the start, what type of OSR game are you running? If you're running a game where the point is largely to get right to direct action, right? Like it's, okay, this is a game where we're going into tombs and we're raiding tombs. So screw your backstory and screw your need for self-expression. Then you better make that clear to everyone. And if somebody then turns around and starts to insist that, no, but my character has this deep, profound story behind him and I want it to be part of this, then you are perfectly entitled as the DM and the other players are perfectly entitled as the players to tell him to go screw himself, right? At the same time, that's not what all, or even most, in my experience, OSR games are about. OSR games are extremely complex. And so if you're running, Lion and Dragon with the old school companion, and suddenly you've got characters that are from the aristocracy, the church, the knightly orders, merchants, all kinds of interesting things, and they're having adventures that are filled with intrigue. They're having stories of, if you've got cults of chaos in there, you've got inquisitors going after heretics, and there's a lot of room there for there to be the expression of the character and dramatic tension. Fine. So there, you've got to jump into another important detail, which in fact could show up in the Dungeon Crawl version too. Because in the Dungeon Crawl version, the most basic form of, oh, that's just what my character would do is, well, you know, my thief is chaotic evil, and so it totally makes sense that I would backstab you and then run away, right? Like, and you know, when that happens, he tries to justify because it's my character, right? And it's the same thing if you've got, you know, if you're playing a campaign of Lion and Dragon and you're playing members of rival noble houses or something like this, and then you have a character that, you know, the player knows that there's some, that's a very good example. The player knows that there's some secret that another player is involved in, like betraying his house for the, you know, to the forces of the queen or whatever. And he starts doing a bunch of things that you're looking at and you're going like, yeah, okay, you're doing this because you out of character, you know that that this guy's a traitor and you just want a justification to catch him, right? So when that happens, he'll suddenly go, oh, no, it's because, you know, I'm playing my character. My character is this guy that's been really dedicated to, you know, being suspicious about him because reasons, right? And you know that that's not true. You know that everybody on the table knows that the only reason that player A is having player B followed is because he already knows player B is a traitor because it happened on, you know, on the open table because we thought everybody were grown-ups, right? That exact scenario never happened to me, but there have been very similar scenarios that have happened, many of them in the campaigns that I've run. So I think this is another point. You have to be very careful. If the argument someone is making is, I'm just playing my character, you have to figure out, are they just playing their character or are they actually acting for themselves? Right? Are they just being assholes? And that's usually pretty easy to tell, right? If the character is doing something that makes perfect sense for the character to be doing, who is a separate person, a separate identity from the player, then yes, that is actually a completely justifiable thing for that guy to do in that scenario, and you have to accept that. And then the other players should do what their player characters would do in that scenario based on what it was, and just quit whining about it, right? Because that's the whole point. The whole point of the RPG is you immerse yourself in your character and you live out what that character would really do. And it's usually very, very easy to tell. There are very few cases where you're going to look at something that a player had his character do and not really be certain whether it was the player just being a dick or something that was genuinely of the character. And you're almost never going to get pissed off, really. I mean, you might, because if it hurts you, your party, your player, your character dies because the other guy was playing his character. That's kind of too bad. But I think most gamers above the age of, let's say, 16 are able to accept that because that's part of the game. The times that this issue becomes such a big deal is when you know that the guy is just using that as an excuse. And everybody inherently, if they have a bit of common sense, can tell when someone is using it as an excuse. Just like we can in the real world. We can tell when someone is expressing something that they say is just their nature, and are doing this because it really is. And when people are doing it as an excuse to be assholes or psychopaths or monsters. Right? And that's why the thing that bothers us is when society, or rather certain political elements of society, insist that we stop making that differentiation, right? That we're not allowed to call out when someone isn't actually doing it because it's their character, and that they're doing it instead because it's, metagaming. Right? You're gaming the system. So just look at whether the player is gaming the system or not. And if they are, don't let them. There's no reason that you have to accept whatever their justification is. We'll just look at them and say, look, we know you're lying. Everybody here knows you're lying. We all know that this is not really about you playing your character. This is about you wanting that magic item, or you wanting to expose the other guy as a traitor so your character doesn't get killed, or whatever, right? So stop lying, right? That's how you deal with it. That's how you deal with it in old school gaming, and in 5th edition gaming. And honestly, who cares, right? Like if the 5th edition gaming is just supposed to be a showcase of everybody's super specialness, and then they all get a participation trophy, then yeah, at this point, why would it matter what that person did or didn't do? You know, like I guess figure out just how much your 5th edition game is actually still resembling a real RPG. And I guess if it is, then the same thing applies as what I just said. But if the whole point of your game is just for people to show off their elaborate backstories and then preen around the stage, portraying their oh so special, oh my god, so random manic pixie characters, then who cares, right? Like you've already lost there, my friend. Anyway, I guess that's it for today. If you like this video, please share it. Please share it anywhere where people will like it or where you think it'll piss people off. And if you want to support me, as I said, the best way to do that is pick up my games. Pick up my books or take a look at the RPG Pundit Presents PDF series. The link to it is in the description below. There's 103 issues and more are coming of RPG Pundit Presents. Each issue is between 99 cents and $4.99. And, you know, there are going to be topics there you're going to find. If you're a gamer, you're going to find something out of those 103 issues that you're going to find interesting and that you'll probably be able to use in your games. So you're giving me a tip, but you're also getting something for yourself. And I like that, and I hope you like that too. I hope it works for you. Anyway, that's everything. Just subscribe, like this video, share the video, buy my stuff. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you, I hope, on Sunday for Inappropriate Characters on the other channel. Look up Inappropriate Characters. Currently smoking, Lorenzetti, Half Volcano, plus Argento Natural.